I'm on my way to 23 Bar. I was just wondering, has he any good new beers? Oh, I have to wear my mask. Hi, Mike. Nice to meet you. Good to see you. Uriah? Hi. I believe your partner Matt has left, as I hear.
That's probably our biggest news from the last year, other than COVID, is our longtime partner and founder Matt has gone back to the States, leaving me to man the fort by myself.
So who's coming up now with the recipes and the ideas as Matt has gone?
That was part of the fun of the whole process of the last 4 or 5 years, was collaborating with Matt on making beer. And now that he's gone, it's going to be my job to come up with the recipes. But I've been trying to bring in some of our team to bring some ideas to the table so they can get more involved with the beer making process. And they seem excited to do that.
What is new since you were last interviewed?
Our newest beer is the Double IPA. I decided to do something fun, which is take one of our old recipes that Matt actually created and turn it into a Double IPA version of it. And that just means more hops, more alcohol. So it's an 8.5% beer. One of the things that we always strove for with this particular recipe was that it would taste like pine. More of a pine or pine resin flavor, which is a little bit different than a lot of IPAs, which tend to be fruity or floral.
The taste of that Double IPA is fantastic. It's a bit smoother than normal IPAs I had before, so it's a smooth type of IPA, and it's very interesting. So the double stands for double malt or double brew?
I'd say that's the basic idea. They're taking an IPA, which might normally be 6%, and doing a doubling, if you will, which
double brewing
doesn't result in 12% beer. Typically, we're going more for like 8 to 9, and it might, in some cases, be like double the hops. Sometimes people go that far. So this beer is hopped about the same rate as our other IPAs, because we kind of throw a lot of hops into all of our IPAs.
So where do you get your hops from? Are you importing them direct, or are you buying them locally?
We are importing them from Yakima, the Pacific Northwest. Oh, that'd be amazing if we could get the hops from Japan. No, this is from the Pacific Northwest in the Yakima Valley.
Okay, I've tasted stronger IPAs, and I'm surprised how smooth this IPA tastes. And the hop seemed to be doing the job.
That's a solid swallow.
Double the IPA is definitely a beer I can recommend in 23 Bar. Here in Taiwan, unique taste. Taiwanese people have different tastes than foreigners from America or Europe. So, what do Taiwanese people think about IPA beers?
Well, IPAs are number one selling beer. I think they have the same passion for IPAs as much as the rest of the world. I would say that we do typically make lower IBU pale ales than would in the United States. They're a little bit softer and going more for a type of balance that's not as extremely bitter. I think that adjustment has made the beer style quite popular in Taiwan. So we're going to actually explore making our beers a little bit more bitter in the future as everyone gets a little bit more comfortable with drinking bitter beer. We have seen a positive trend. The market is definitely growing and getting more mature. The consumers get more educated and more interested in exploring, because they have tried a lot of different types of beer and now they're curious to try different things. So I would say there's a lot of positive growth, and the passion that Taiwanese have for craft beer is definitely apparent.
Is the older generation buying into this?
Good question. I don't know how to answer that. I will say that we have a pretty diverse customer base at this bar. There's people of all ages coming in here. As for would they go to the supermarket and buy a craft beer, I would doubt it. But if they are in an environment where it's available, then I'm pretty sure people will give it a go, because it's fun to try new foods and drinks. drinks. My father-in-law, he's I think in his 70s. He has tried some of our beers and he doesn't seem interested in it. I don't think it's because he doesn't like it. I think it's because the alcohol content is a little bit too unpredictable. Like, if you are used or accustomed to drinking Taiwan beer regularly, you know your limits. If you switch to IPA, you just don't know what's going to happen. You might, drink too much and get sick. So there's that aspect of craft beer. I think it would be.
So do you think Taiwan's stuck in that ABV rut?
This generational drinking preference is something that people in the beer industry have studied and observed in other countries, where you have a fan base for a very classic beer. I want to say the most recent one I've heard is Australia. I forget, maybe it was Foster's or something. The people that drink Foster's for a generation and they're getting older and they're starting to unfortunately die off as we do, and so that they're having to find a way to rejuvenate interest in the beer because the younger generation is trying all these new things.
The future for Taiwan beer, maybe 20, 30 years, could go the Foster's.
Sure, yeah. I don't see the same thing happening with the population here in Taiwan beer. It's such an intrinsic part of Taiwan life. Even for me as a craft beer maker, I still love to drink Taiwan beer. I like to go to Beer Chat Taiwan and drink a bunch of brown bottles. I don't see that going away, but I do think there's going to be some changes in the future where people are across the board getting more involved in trying this stuff.
So TTL that went into craft beer and kind of had a rocky ride with it, do you think that could be a competitor in the future if they got their act together?
Wow, I might actually go on record and say I don't think TTL will get their act together with craft beer. But if they do, that'll be great because it's just more beer for us. I just don't think that their craft beer attempts are going to pan out for them. I think that maybe it's not their expertise.
One of the next pale ale beers I'm going to try to introduce is the coconut pale ale.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Cheers.
Cheers. I never have heard about coconut beer. It's definitely a very new thing to me. The flavor is just fruity. Again, it's not as strong as I would have thought as a pale ale. But how did you come about to brew coconut beer?
Yeah, I would say about a year and a half ago, one of my friends, Leroy, owns the Shrine and Temple Tattoo. He's learning to be a tattoo artist. You can see he did the artwork for the label. He said he wanted a beer that he could sell at Shrine, and also just wanted something interesting. He travels a lot around Asia, and I don't know, we just came across coconut as an ingredient to focus on. So we tried to do a toasted coconut pale ale. Started working on that. Working with coconut was, you're trying to figure out what's the best form of coconut. We have, if we were in the United States, they have pre-pared toasted coconut chips that you can purchase, but just like an off-the-shelf ingredient you can use. We're using coconut flakes that we have to then take to one of our friends who has a bakery, and we toast the coconut flakes in the oven. And one of the things we've learned is the coconut flavor will fade. This beer is a lot more coconutty when it's first made.
So how do the Taiwanese take to the coconut beer?
Mixed results. We were working on this beer, making test batches in the office for, I would say, a solid half year before we finally did a commercial batch. And we make it, we're really excited, we release it, and then we find out from our staff that coconut is a very controversial flavor.
It certainly is.
A lot of people love it or hate it in Taiwan,
Yes.
and more people hate it in Taiwan than we originally knew. So we asked, why did you not tell us this when we were designing and making this beer? You could have told us this before we committed to it. But it's got its fans.
I know you as Uriah. Uriah likes his beers as well. Uriah, what do you think about coconut beer?
I like it. Very like it.
This coconut beer is a fantastic summer drink. It's a refreshing beer and ideal for summertime.
Pretty excited for you to get your first impression of this cucumber sour. This is, if you thought coconut was weird, then just wait till you have cucumber. Oh. That's the refreshing summer drink. The sour beer program that was definitely driven by Matt. Matt went back to America, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years ago, and there was a sour beer explosion, and he came back and said, we got to make a sour beer, and so we started to do that. And we had to come up with some things to put into the sour beer. Passion fruit was obvious, it's sour already. We decided to do that, and then we had the idea to put some cucumber in it. When we first released this beer, it was almost universal that Taiwanese would dislike it and a Westerner would be open and interested and like it. But since we've had it around for a couple of years, people have warmed up to it. It might be something that confuses you or just can't, it's hard to get into at first, but once you find a way to like it, then you really, this beer has some pretty serious fans.
You can taste the cucumber. Refreshing, yes, I think a very, very hot summer's day. It's certainly a different type of beer, by any means. It is refreshing. It is a summer drink. Cheers to cucumbers.
2020 was a wild ride, to say the least, right, with COVID. Fortunately, Taiwan did a very good job of controlling the virus. I'm extremely grateful for, because I still have a company. I've got a lot of optimism for 2021. Our next project that we're going to be working on is a 4th bar that's really focused on food. I think one of the things that's happened inside of the last 2 years is the rise of cocktail culture. The speakeasy cocktail culture really, craft beer started before speakeasy culture, but speakeasy culture has definitely surpassed us. Yeah, in addition to opening an additional store, we're really going to be focusing on bringing more beers to market, trying to do a little bit more of an aggressive release schedule for having new stuff. So the next beer I'm pretty excited about. It's mango milk tea ale. So we've made mango beers before. I've made lactose beers before. Never done tea beer before. This will be the first one.